a Playlist original.
Hello? Hello?
A high school girl's been murdered. Mr. Harrison's daughter is missing. And now at the house where she lives, the other girls are getting obscene phone calls.
Let me lick it. Lick it. Lick it. Let me lick your pretty.
Don't you think we ought to look into it?
What do you want? Why are you doing this?
It's me, Billy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a very Christmassy episode of Back to the Blockbuster. I think this will be one of our last episodes before the holiday season is officially upon us. We are recording as of Sunday, December 22nd, and I'm officially back. Glad to be back in my home, ready to be on all further episodes going future on the show. So, Gaius, thank you for holding down the fort in my absence. I know I was able to pop on a few times over the last few months, but you kept the show going while I was away at school, and even not even in my own home province. So hats off to you for the work you and all the guests that joined you over the last several months. You deserve all the applause, my friend, and a very happy belated birthday to my co-host here, who just celebrated on December the 17th. So very happy belated birthday to you. It's a great time of year. Very excited for everything that we're going to get up to before the year's over, and happy to have gone through another year on the show with you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. Thank you again for the birthday wishes. And I think also we unintentionally both chose green for our backgrounds today.
I noticed that. Yeah,
it was awesome. Secret News to me is on point. Like I said, I guess we can call it a Christmas miracle. You're back, like back.
Yep.
We actually say you're back. I was like, he has his headphones, his mic, his own stopping grounds. It's nice to see your actual bedroom.
Yes, back in my
chair. I would say that. It's like weird. Like, oh, it's good to see like your actual room.
Yeah, my I know you can't see it, but I got my dual monitors up here. Like, just makes recording and researching on the fly so much easier that I couldn't do when I was hopping on the last few times. So feels good to be back at home, especially for the holiday season.
Yeah, there's a familiarity to doing this, and like it was funny because one of the girls I hang out with, I didn't mention this to you, but she's like, so how's it going with like not recording like every Monday? Like, and like she likes to kind of do it in the funny way, like, oh, do you miss it? I was like, well, yeah, I do. Like, and then she's like, that's cute. I was like, oh, of course you think it's cute, but she's like, that actually is thing that she actually think that's great though, that you actually are like, you have this like long-standing, meeting your day with this person, like it becomes a routine.
Very
and when
much
that routine gets broken, you're like, she's like, she basically was like, I'm being dramatic. She's like, it's okay to mourn that routine not being the same.
Mourn is a good way to put it. It was noticeably absent in my week.
I think we kind of handled it well with like how the episodes came out, and it kind of felt like you weren't really gone a lot the way we kind of mixed in when you could be there,
right?
But in real time, I felt it.
In real time, it's a whole different story. Exactly. Listening to the show, if for those that listened chronologically, probably didn't feel like much of a gap. But for us, it was like 4 months of our routine being significantly interrupted. So a good chunk of the year, a third of the year. All I got to say is thank you for holding Interstellar for me, because that was a blast to chat that movie's 10th anniversary. And I'm really glad that I got that in, if nothing else.
And your mom's also a great supporter too. Like she saw that I think that a clip from that episode, and like
she shared that. That's right.
And then she shared it, and then she mentioned like I think it's like one of his favorite movies, like in top 5. Like she didn't quite know. Right. I never know if I should. I never know sometimes if I should like respond to your mother. Like, oh, I think it is.
She's fair game. She loves it. She loves the show. She loves you.
Yeah. So I mean, same with my mom thinks it's like my mom thinks it's so like lovely that like she's like, oh, like I don't understand fully how like you haven't like hung out with this person, but like and how friendly you guys are. Like,
right?
You guys are like friends. I'm like, yeah,
100%.
I like
this is like she's glory of the internet.
This is like I guess a new way of having like a pen pal. Weird way.
Yeah, that's a really great analogy, actually. Someone
honestly, like it's like a new age pen pal. And like I don't think the show could work if it was like, oh, I'm just gonna log on with you and just talk about the show, and then like that would be it. Like, friendship kind of developed organically, I think, just like out of necessity or habit.
Right.
And I think that's great. Like that's what I love about it. And make it easy. Like you just really make it easy. And considering like all the stuff that happened, like with other people in and out, I'm just really happy that at this point you've been on longer than any of them.
Yes.
Number of episodes. It feels like you've been there since the beginning. I know you haven't. People have given me ideas, and like they're like, oh, there's some good episodes in that like beginning slot that he's not on. How are you gonna do that? And I'm in the podcast group that's like, there's ways to like repurpose those episodes, but maybe just do them with him. Like cover those movies that you covered with certain people with him because he didn't get to do them. So I have a lot of ideas on how to like, I don't want to pretend like the early part of the show doesn't exist, because it does. And
100%.
It's like humble beginnings, but like at a certain point, like you've been doing it so long, and like it really feels like I haven't done the show with anyone else. It really feels like you've been there since the beginning at this point.
Well, I'm glad that I can fill that gap. I only knew about the show a little bit before I had joined on, so it's like it's interesting to hear that where I can't like relate to it. I love though that it feels that way.
I love that you 100%. Like, hey, yeah, I'll do it.
I was down from the get-go
without even like thinking about it. I was like, oh, cool. I thought you need time. Like, oh, we'll see. I don't know what my schedule's like. I don't even know if I want to.
I was truthfully just waiting for an opportunity like this to come.
Yeah, it was just really cool. And like, I also like, I think the one thing that still amazes me, not that we ended up getting along, but like how easy and how fast it was. Like, where it did, like, like my friend Kayla's like, you guys didn't even have like a chemistry read or anything like that. Like, you just, I was like, no, we just kind of like, and I guess that might have been the smart thing to do. Like, oh, let's see if this works. But that you had that guest slot. I guess that was.
I think that kind of doubled as that for sure. Yeah.
And then you kind of got like the lay of the land of like what the show was, and then like you quickly like adapted to it, and like it was just easy. When you like can talk to someone that's like like-minded, you just get each other, and like
exactly. I'm very easy. You share the same like passion too,
interest and stuff.
For film.
And like in a different way too, right? Like I work in it, and like you just love it, and but that kind of like meets in the middle somewhere, and like.
And I love that dynamic, truthfully.
Really yeah. And the communication is just easy. So like you're not shy. It's not like don't have to like pull things out of you.
No, definitely not.
We've had guests before you on that. It was like, oh, it's like pulling teeth. Like I gotta get you to talk.
That would make it tough to run a podcast. I think there needs to be a natural gift of gab or love of talking and sharing ideas for this to work. And that I think goes without saying. We both are very passionate about what we talk about, and aren't shy about it. But those ideas that you say you got, keep those. As we were just discussing off camera, we got lots of things coming for 2025 now that I'm back, and we're sort of rendezvousing. It'll be a good time to start planning for the next year for the show, and I'm sure there will be changes and some things that we'll do more of that we already do on the show. But needless to say, very much looking forward to 2025 at the show. And big thanks to every one of you guys that have followed us from 2024. Hopefully we brought in some new people along the way.
And to anyone listening, I think I'm throwing this much love his way because like I miss talking to him. So there you go. That's our sappy moment. Our sappy moment. I'm very comfortable with saying like I actually did miss you too. So like there you go.
You'll be sick of me here soon enough with all the FaceTime we're gonna have in making up for lost time, because we got a lot I'm sure to cover.
I'm looking forward to it. It was great recording the last like Merry Bingemas episode I did with the guests. I was like, all right, I'm doing this with you, and I actually say like by the time you guys hear this, like Jackson will be like back, not like just kind of back, but like
Right.
So that was like nice to say it, and then nice to actually say it to your face, like virtually. So it feels
Thank
good.
you
It's
for the
awesome.
warm welcome. I'm so happy to be back to our routine and to be back on the show, and just to be honestly just a huge other part that was missing for the last few months for
Yeah.
me was my physical ability to watch movies was significantly
Yeah, man.
impaired because I was
And
like in a
I know you didn't
full-time
love that either. Like,
program.
you want to like like watch more and like
Yeah, so I'm really
it's hard.
behind. That's another thing. I'm really behind on some of the new releases from the last quarter of the year. So I've got some
Yeah.
movies to make up, and even just like some of the own personal watches that I've wanted to get in. I missed out on a lot. So luckily, I've got a few weeks off to kind of catch up, and I don't got work for a little bit. So a lot of that will be dedicated to watching movies and to getting
He's
some
diving back
episodes
in,
out.
guys.
Yeah, I'm diving, making up for lost time. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a busy road ahead, but very much a good problem
Looking
to
forward
have.
to
I'm
it.
not complaining in any way, but
Yeah. And before we get into what we're talking about tonight, what movie we're talking about, our movies, I do want to let people know that a lot of people have messaged like, is the new show coming back? We kind of missed it. We haven't really done news and all that, and we've done mostly the anniversaries, and we had Tales of Horror that kind of went long. That did really well for us, honestly. It did better than last year's Tales of Horror. So thank everyone for listening to that and being aware that like we were doing more like movie centric episodes and like not news. I tried a couple times. I did news with like JC, and it was great. Twice actually, and it was good. And like he's very intuitive. He knows movies, he knows news. But like I think once you have a certain chemistry with people to do it the way that we were doing it, I kind of felt like I didn't want to like not do it with you. It was just like it just didn't feel right. Not like doing it with you. Like we kind of like can bounce off each other when it comes to like movie news and stuff like that.
honestly, news are some of my favorite things that we talk about on the show. It's something that I really have missed doing because the episodes I popped on for like specifically
all been movie
anniversaries and stuff,
centric, right? Just related one movie related. Like,
I love
show,
talking about different things that are going on in the industry, getting your perspective on it, especially when we like think differently about certain things, or like a lot of the times you have a perspective that I, not working in it, have not considered. So, and there's been a lot of things that I've just kind of been out of the loop on too, where I've not just had that time to do some investigating and proactive research into what's been going on. So I'm excited to kind of get back into that, but absolutely news episodes not going anywhere. In fact, would have loved to record one tonight, except it's a little bit later where I'm at. So I'll be heading off after this episode, but this week we'll definitely have probably an update for everybody that maybe relies on us for news.
One. We'll have a news one, and then like that part of the show will be fully back in the new year. That will be a integral part of the show again. Like I actually got you guys like on the list and understood why it kind of couldn't keep going like that, and the way we kind of like just did more like movie milestones and like just movie centric episodes, and like just understanding why we had to do it, and just knowing that we love talking about news. That is. That was the nature of the show when it started. So like
true. Yeah. It's very much at the core of the show.
Yeah. So we definitely want to bring it back. And I guess we'll get a little sample of that when we record one this week. I'm guessing like you're listening to one now, and then we'll have a news one. And I think, before the new year comes up, we were going to do an anniversary episode for Closer. That'll probably be the last thing that we kind of do, I guess, together for before the new year, like
right.
And then I also I did a Talented Mr. Ripley with JC. Also that'll be mixed in there somewhere. But yeah, like that's just kind of coming up. We didn't want to go like. Thankfully, the schedule worked out. Playlist didn't take a break. Thank you, Playlist. They were going to take a December break, and they decided not to.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I told them like we aren't going to be cranking out a lot of episodes per se. Like I'm gonna stretch them out so there is no gap, but I think it was in the best interest for me and you that we kind of just did a little bit and then come back into like really strong with like new stuff as far as like heading into the new year. So I'm glad we have enough content to not have the break, but I'm really happy that we will actually be able to take a break and recharge and
exactly
and bring the show back in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm most looking forward to what it'll look like in the new year. I'm sure it'll have the same DNA, but I'm excited. We haven't even really been able to bounce off ideas yet, but we'll have our annual end of the year meeting and throw some ideas at each other that you guys will inevitably see in the new year. And
we'll
again,
nerd out hard about that, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
A part of me wants to like, if depending on how that, I would never. I don't know if I would ever release that note taking thing, but like, that could be a fun like behind the scenes thing we do for YouTube, like how we kind of come up with ideas. Like you kind of cut like a little thing together. Like that might be a good like video content.
Absolutely.
See, thinking of new ideas on the spot. But as far as tonight's agenda, I love Jackson, and I hate that his first full day back, he has to endure, I guess, half endure a movie that I know he did not love, but he kind of is. Jackson is a king of taking one for the team for the show and doing it with a smile on his face.
That's right.
With a joke lock and loaded just in case, so he can talk all the shit he wants to talk if he needs to.
Absolutely. I'm sure there will be some said about one of tonight's features.
I think you guys remember around this time. Actually it was almost a year ago when we did Black Christmas together. Wow. Yeah. Jesus. I did Black Christmas the year before with a special guest, and then I was like, when we were doing our Merry Bingemas thing, and guys, I don't think Merry Bingemas is going to be around again next year. Like it's nice. Jackson and I kind of briefly were like, there's not a lot of Christmas movies. We can't really like do this the way we do Tales of Horror. It's not like it doesn't have the same like longevity.
We'll have a different spin on holiday stuff, perhaps. Maybe just one special episode or something.
But he humbled me last year and like did some Christmas stuff. I was just told no Love Actually, and I
thank you for respecting that.
I honor that. But I did like want to give me the opportunity to watch 1974's Black Christmas, and I think I kind of waited with like bated breath after you watched it, because I love the movie, and like it like in a lot of ways, like when we like it had its 50th anniversary the other day, and like I posted something on X about it, and I really do like. I mean, I love Halloween. I will always like Halloween is like my granddaddy of those movies. But
absolutely, I know that's your favorite.
Black Christmas in its own right, I think it's still underrated. Even though a lot of people do like it, but I also think it can stand up proudly next to something like Halloween as far as like genuine atmosphere and tension and suspense, and like it really in the same vein like did a lot of things before, like predates Halloween. A lot of
I'm glad you acknowledged that, because I was blown away when I first watched Black Christmas last year, and I'll preface by saying I also love this movie. I wish I had discovered it sooner, and I have something to say too about its underratability. But I was genuinely really surprised at how much John Carpenter borrowed for Halloween from Black Christmas. And at least in my perspective, what I've seen, I haven't seen a lot of accountability, I guess, for that. Not saying that Carpenter ripped it off by any means. Like maybe he is aware or has accounted for that, but I've never heard of those comparisons before. So back to what I meant about its underratedness. Black Christmas in my circle where I encounter,
and that's your baby too, like Canada's baby. I mean, you guys,
that's a great point. But I don't hear this movie talked about in like different circles. My good buddy over here that I watch movies with on a weekly basis, Cam, I know I've mentioned him on the show several times. He hadn't seen this one either. It's very hard to come across, I found. I can't even remember. I've not even come across a DVD or a Blu-ray of it when browsing, and I've had my eyes open since I've seen it. I think you might have ended up sending it to me to watch.
I did the first time.
Tough to get a hold of, and I don't know why, because this movie is incredible, and like for the time, ahead of its time, like there is some vulgar language and visuals.
I remember you were so like. I remember when we did that episode, and you were just so like. I could tell if you were like gleefully surprised that it went.
Gleefully surprised, absolutely.
And you were just like, you were just like, whoa! I can't believe like it kind of goes in early, like those phone calls are just like
the first phone call with the girls and Billy on the other line, and the stuff that he says that I will definitely not repeat here. Just so out of pocket for this time. I just didn't think there was an appetite for that sort of thing.
The 70s, man. You're like, whoa, like you have to think like people who did happen to see it then were like, they're clutching their pearls maybe when they're watching it.
And it genuinely, I do think that it's a positive in the movie. It made me take the movie serious, and the antagonist who was largely unseen made me take him serious right away. It was a great hook in for the beginning of that movie, and I think that's the right call. I mean, I think the scene would have been effective even if he had been saying certain different things, as it's at the time, I think, a pretty novel premise, like the killer taunting the girls on the phone. At that time, obviously, we've seen that done probably 100 times since this movie.
That also predates like when a stranger calls. That whole idea of like the calls are coming from inside the house, like
right.
It probably got based on like an old urban legend too, but like it really I do feel weird calling it underrated, because I know a lot of people love it, but like I don't really think like still 50 years since it came out that like I don't think it really does have a lot of
without a doubt it doesn't
significant mainstream love. I mean, I guess you can call it a cult classic now, but like there's I still have people that I respect their movie taste, and they love movies, and they never seen it, and they're always surprised when I like one of my biggest joys is like actually showing that movie to someone for the first time and like seeing if they like it. And I've been lucky that everyone's been like,
what's not to like? It's awesome.
Floored by it and surprised by it. That they're like, dude, I wasn't expecting that. And like, I thought I was gonna watch some like low grade like Christmas slasher movie, and then like, and that wasn't the case. And kudos to the late Bob Clark. He makes like one of the scariest Christmas movies, and then does a Christmas Story as well. Like hey, good for you, man. Like
definitely
both sides of Christmas he got to cover. And like a lot of the things that worked about Black Christmas is that the ambiguity, like you don't really have a motive, you don't really have a lot to go on, right? The mystery is what kind of makes it scary.
Huge
and I say
contrast between
I say this a segue into so one of the things at the end of that episode, if you might remember, I actually linked it on the 50th anniversary on our Instagram story as a kind of reminder, like we covered it last year, was at the end of that episode, I kind of briefly was like, hey, I'm glad you like this movie, Jackson. There is a 2006 remake. And I said, like, I hated it when I saw it. Like, dude, my reaction in the movie theater was guttural, awful. Because I was like, this is everything that original movie wasn't.
Yes. All the things I love about the original were taken away in the 2006 remake.
Every iota of everything you can love about it, right? Yeah. And I remember telling you, like, it's there. And I think I kind of pitched, like, maybe next year, like, we can kind of compare both of them. And you were down for that. And I held on to that. And here we are. Like I said, Black Christmas has been an essential part of our show now, 3 years running. This might be the last one because I don't think I can convince Jackson to do 2019 remake now.
No, that's not happening. Definitely not. Yeah. If you say it's worse than the 2006 one, which I know that you got a soft spot for, I think just you said the 19 one is like a remake in name only, right? Yeah, whatever. But on that note, though, Black Christmas is probably the movie that's been covered the most on this show. If you say that this is the third time, so that's kind of a special slot that this. I'm sure Halloween will eventually usurp it because I know we'll talk those movies again.
Find a way to bring it. And it's cool too. And we got to cover it in different ways. Like, so when I had Joseph on like the year before you, like covering it, like we really, the way we got into it was really different than how you got into it, because he had seen it before. So there was a lot of like history with the movie, and I had seen it before. Like, so that next year, like you were seeing that movie for the first time, and like it was just like the things that you loved about watching it the first time. And so it made the episodes very different. And I thought that was really cool. And I knew, because now I know you as a movie person now, I knew that you weren't going to love the remake.
Right.
But I think I told you at the end of that episode, I was like, it's not really good. I hated it. But I was like, in the years since its theatrical release, and I started to watch, like, I got on DVD. I was like, because sometimes completely, I'll buy stuff even if like I hated that in theaters, or maybe I'll change my mind later.
Right.
And I think what kind of helped is, I mean, you said you looked it up too. As the years are going by, working on different websites and stuff, like you see a lot of retrospective stuff pop up about certain movies, and this is one that would pop up a lot, and almost like a lot of articles like, hey, like 2006 Black Christmas remake is not as bad as you remember it. I was like, all right, So I'm reading these things like with an open mind, and then like reading these things, and then watching the movie again, like trying to like look at it from like, okay, this is how they appreciated it, and I think this might be easy. I can now appreciate it as it's just trashy, guilty pleasure slasher movie fun. It's not good, and I know this sounds really bad to say. Like I will say it's not a good movie, but honestly, dude, it has become a part of my yearly unconventional Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like I usually watch it after Black Christmas, which I did for this.
Nice.
So I
That's
usually
the same
save
order I
that viewing.
watched them in this year too.
Yeah, I usually save that viewing a little closer to Christmas, but I got it in earlier for this, and it's interesting because like, yeah, I mean, we'll get into it. They are tonally very different.
Yep.
But I think there's something I can appreciate about the almost prestige, like atmosphere, suspense filled, like, polished thriller of the original one. And then just being like, all right, maybe I should just be such a begrudging. It's like, it's a fun slash movie. There's some fun kills. The cast is fun. A lot of cute girls and it too. Like, I mean, like there's that.
Certainly. There's some
like
cool throwbacks to the original.
Yeah.
I'll give it
there's
that.
nice
That was
homages.
entertaining.
There's some
homages.
nice like shots in the movie that seem like homages to like shots in the, even like how they show like, the sorority house, like even though it's like modern day, but the way they shoot the sorority house in the remake is like, if you were to get side by side shots, they look kind of similar to like some of the establishing shots from like the original movie. Like my friend David, he listens all the time. Like he'll want me to say it's shot well, it looks good. It's polished.
Unfortunately, that was something that I didn't really notice throughout because I was not going to lie. I didn't keep a keen eye on a lot of the camera work while watching it. It was kind of a chore.
How much were you hate watching it? When did you realize you were hate watching it?
I knew I wasn't. I think truthfully, and I don't like to admit this because I'll be the first to say to somebody, don't go into a movie with preconceptions but I went into this just kind of knowing it wasn't for
my
me,
fault too. I lobbed it up like, it's not good, man. I already lobbed it up to you. Like,
well, the 22 Metascore that it's sitting with right now on IMDb isn't enough. I know that doesn't mean that it's subjective.
Great either.
And I've criticized people for
Rotten Tomatoes 14%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the first to say I don't like when people, and even myself, like just dictate whether a movie is good or bad or worth watching based on its like critical reception. Because, like obviously this stuff's subjective. What's good to me might not be good to you. But when something's so down in the dumps, like it's when we're like sub 30, that's pretty, indicative that something is universally panned. Exactly. And that's not to say, because I know that we're going to cover Doom next year, and that has some pretty abysmal reviews, and I love that movie. So, this is, not the exception. It's part of the, what I'm trying to say? Like, I went in there knowing that I might be pleasantly surprised, but sort of a little bit biased, I won't lie. And after the first on-screen kill, the first scene, I was like, this is very 2000s remake horror, unfortunately.
And 5 minutes in, you're like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah. And I was fresh off that rewatch of the original, which is a pretty high bar to set.
Fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
So when we say like, the remake is everything the original movie is not. That's a very fair assessment.
And that's not always a bad thing by itself. Like we've talked about remakes before where we've appreciated some liberties in the source material that the director might have taken to take things in a new direction or to add some lore. That is not by itself a bad thing. I think it takes away a lot of the great from the original in this remake, unfortunately. Like I don't want to know. I think what's great about the original, part of what really works is like you said earlier, the ambiguity of the killer. We don't know his motive, why he's doing this, even who he is, and really even what he looks like, save for a few glimpses. We've got all these answers now from this remake, and that's a pretty cool, that maybe it could have worked. I admire like narratively trying to figure that out, but it not for me at all, unfortunately.
So it smacks you over the head with backstory. So if you liked the whole like, I don't really know who this guy is, over the phone, like what's going on. Like, I think we talked about it when we covered the original last year. Like I always got the impression that like each phone call, like he was like acting out a scenario that may have happened or in his life, like maybe
Yes.
maybe he, he's Billy and maybe he hurt someone named Agnes. Agnes could have been like a baby sister, like there's a lot.
That's
like
exactly what I think. Yeah,
you can lay that on yourself, and like your imagination can go with that. And then and by the time the last phone call happens in the original, where it's just like he's just going back and forth and bouncing from voice to voice and like yelling and then crying as her, and then like talking as a kid to his parents right over the phone, like here's the baby mom, like there's this whole thing like where so your mind is like, I was like, whoa, I'm assuming this has happened and he's just reenacting this, and that's all you really need to know. I guess,
or maybe this is just him completely just making shit up and
making it up.
Who knows? That ambiguity, like you said, lets your imagination sort of make answers for itself, and that is a huge part of the fun in that movie.
No.
I do
not with this remake.
No, I will say though that how the remake approaches all this felt very fitting for the time. Like this very much feels like it belongs as a 2000s horror slasher, and there's a lot of great ones from the 2000s, a lot of poor ones, and I'm not against maybe trying this out in another few years and seeing if I feel the same way that you do, because I was really surprised to see that. I know you mentioned
like it.
Yeah. So I just watched it tonight in anticipation of this episode, so I haven't had a lot of time to do much digging on its reception other than, some surface level stuff. But I was really surprised, like Chris Stuckman, against what you said, he actually was championing this movie as being better than its reception would have you to believe, like praising some camera work, praising some narrative choices. And I was just like, I don't agree at all, but I'm surprised that somebody of this caliber like is defending
you
this
respect
movie.
that shit too, right?
And I respect his opinions on a lot of stuff.
I was like, huh.
It wasn't enough to change my mind, but kind of just building off what you mentioned earlier about some camera work and stuff, like because I wasn't that invested, I was, sort of my eye would wander a little bit.
This movie with you, man. Like
I probably would have had a better time, truthfully, but there was some
make fun of it with you.
Yeah, definitely would have been a great. Like I next time I watch this, it'll probably be as a comedy.
Yeah,
but there was some impressive camera work. I'll give the director that. Particularly the one that I noticed throughout was that shot of Billy in the Christmas tree, like in one of the flashback sequences. The camera's kind of going. I think it's a dolly shot, and it goes through the tree, and then you see his eye at the end. That was a really cool shot. I won't lie.
Right, which a lot of that's like an homage to like the iconic like eyeball shot, like
in the original, which is another good one.
Which they kind of overdo in the remake.
There's a huge focus on eyeballs in the remake.
Actually, a big eye fetish in this. There's a lot of they get ripped out and
eaten.
Oh. Yeah, so like they kind of lay on like what like, hey, this happened in the original. Let's like kind of take that and like,
how do we make this grosser?
Yeah, let's like run it over with a truck.
And again, that's why I feel like it fits in the 2000s, because the 2000s was so gore heavy and just everything blood and guts and shock value. And that's why I felt like this did have the DNA of a 2000 slasher. It fit in the right time. But, and you know me, I love that sort of stuff in a movie. I'm usually advocating for more. And that's a complaint I usually have for movies, is it wasn't gory enough. And honestly, for the 1974 original, I think that there's just the right amount that it works. Like, I think this is sort of what's that word when things are kind of just done over the top for no reason?
Like gratuitous.
Gratuitous. Exactly what I was trying to. Yeah, it feels gratuitous.
That's a good way to
describe this movie.
Me.
Yeah, but that can be fun sometimes. I just went in not really knowing what to expect, and that's how I felt coming out of it. That maybe I'll enjoy that about it next time I watch it. Who knows?
Yeah. So, the remake in a lot of ways is similar. Like, you have these girls who are, at a sorority house over the Christmas break. Same scenario.
In a bad fucking mood, too.
In the bad. So this is one of the things. So this is one of the things that a lot of people like, right? And then, so one of my friends, I remember when, like, because like watching horror movies like this with some friends, it's like great, especially with girls who don't really love them. If they can find a way to make fun of it, it's fun. I just remember one of my friends, like, I think I forgot, it was early on, because like all these girls, and I apologize, are just the same kind of variation of bitch.
Yeah, they're so unlikable.
They're awful. But my friend's watching it, and she's just like, oh, they're so fucking bitchy. I love it. So like, yeah, so like so a lot of people if you read different retrospects about it, they like that the girls are kind of like all bitches. Like they like that.
Why?
Someone actually called it like Black Christmas like the mean girls of like horror movies, and that's what they liked.
Okay,
about it,
yeah,
like, it's
that's
really
a pretty
snarky.
legit way of looking at it. Yeah,
It's unapologetically snarky. I guess the only nice girl is Katie Cassidy's character, the lead. Like she's the only, and they make it a point to make sure that you know she's nice. She's blonde. She's wearing a white sweater. All the other girls are like brunette, usually in dark clothes. Like I mean, like Lacey Chabert is basically playing a bitchier Gretchen Wieners.
It's funny. I didn't recognize her as Gretchen until afterwards, and that's a big reason why Amanda Seyfried wasn't cast in Katie Cassidy's role, is because they didn't want two mean girls.
Two on the nose.
But she was fun. I will say too that Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who was the only thing that I could remember about our conversation,
by the way, is like a horror final girl mainstay. Like she's been in a lot of movies, and
I was surprised that she wasn't really the final girl. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the remake yet. I thought she was going a little bit further just based on her status in the horror genre and her. I guess maybe I wouldn't have recognized a lot of these faces, but maybe she wasn't the most popular at the time this movie came out. She was the face that I recognized the most.
Trachtenberg is in this movie. She was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, okay.
She was
Lacey
she was in the last
Chabert too.
The show. Michelle Trachtenberg. Like so when I'm watching Black Christmas, like again, Michelle Trachtenberg's character is just bitchy, and like she ends up playing a bitchy character like that on Gossip Girl. I was like, so there's like training grounds to like play bitchy characters, I guess. So here's what I think you're gonna like maybe get on me for, because I think I've mentioned this. Like what I don't like about like the Halloween remake is that all the female characters are all variations of they're not likable. They're all just kind of bitchy and snarky, and I hated that in that movie. I've grown to like that in this movie. And I know that might not make sense. I will try to explain myself.
It doesn't, but that's okay. I wish I brought up the Halloween remake first, because I thought of you when I'm watching this. I'm like, why does he like this and not the Halloween remake? It's the same. It's the same. It has the same DNA.
That, man. Like,
I did.
I'm glad you actually thought that. And like, I wish I could give you a better explanation. Like, that didn't work there, but that works here.
Well, maybe because you cherish Halloween as a movie so much more. It's more personal. Maybe that
probably
a reason. But
like,
I was actually thinking about it.
Have friends that like when we watched it that like kind of love that, like, oh, they're all bitchy. I love it. They love snarky sense of humor like that. But then also I've had other friends, same thing. They were like, I can't root for girls who are just like a different shade of like bitchy. Like they're not really like there was like nothing that really differentiated them from each other. They were just all mean.
Except for Eve, who still didn't. There was nothing different about her other than like some off-screen death. I kind of wanted somebody to care about, like, to have like some sort of like emotional tie to. I wouldn't really say that I had it for who it is, for Kelly.
I like how you tried.
I'd try, but ultimately I knew that, and I wouldn't say. You can tell me if you think differently. I couldn't tell for a while who I thought this movie's protagonist was supposed to be, but I knew it would be somebody. And once it was established as Kelly, who I guess gets a little bit more of a anchoring with like the boyfriend angle than the other girls do. Then I was like, hey, I don't really feel like she's in jeopardy anymore. And then I kind of didn't really care. And all the other ones, other than Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I thought was probably going to make it towards at least to the end. Her death was a little surprising and underwhelming, unfortunately. Now
you're being snarky. It's like rubbing off on you. So like, like the thing is, like, there's I believe it's Kristen Cloke's character who is kind of supposed to be like the drunk. That it's supposed to be like a kind of play on Margot Kidder's character in the original.
Right.
And it was kind of fun to have that character there, right? But
yes,
what you do realize when you're watching is that every character is like that, like other than Eve, and other than like Katie Cassidy. And Katie Cassidy is far from being a bitch. Like they make it very clear that she's the nice girl, that she's like she's the heroine. She's going to be alive by the end of it. She's getting cheated on by her boyfriend. She doesn't know it. There's a lot of stuff that makes her like, oh, we are supposed to root for her, and I don't want to slight Katie Cassidy. I honestly don't think any of the girls are bad in the movie. They play to what they're given, and that's fine. I think you might
Yep.
disagree, but no one's winning the awards, but I don't think they're awful. Like they,
No,
I
fair.
think
Yes.
I think they are playing to their strengths, and this is what they were told to play.
Yep.
And Katie Cassidy, like it's interesting because Katie Cassidy plays her part like so straight. So I feel like she either didn't understand the camp or she was like, maybe it's not campy. Like she's in a campy fucking movie and is not really acting like it. Like she is taking this very seriously. And like, I'm also like intrigued and like mesmerized by that when I'm watching it now. I was like, oh, what movie did she in? Like, I think when I'm watching it now, I'm always trying to like pick apart, like, oh, I wonder what was going on set. Because this is like, by the way, anyone that follows Dimension Films, this is the Dimension Films release. They released Scream. Like,
when I saw that, I said, oh boy.
They had some good stuff back in the day about what they are known for. And this was a Weinstein, Dimension Films company, and a lot of scenes were shot for this movie. A lot of scenes that if you look up TV spots on YouTube, you'll see those scenes and TV spots. They're not in the movie at all.
That's right.
That was done on purpose. They actually did film scenes just for the TV spots and didn't put them in the movie. I don't understand that.
Even the full trailer has several. I watched it after because I had read that, and I'm like, this is straight up. I'm curious too about your thoughts on why. No.
Makes zero sense to me.
Because I think you can show a trailer of this movie and not give stuff away. So it's strange. I agree to film extra footage.
Yeah.
To show off scenes that people might be excited to go see, and then for them not to be there. Usually that's to me would sound like a risk, not like a smart marketing decision. But
yeah, I will say though, I wish I could shout this guy out because I got this on Blu-ray 3 years ago. It's not for sale in a lot of places, but this guy actually ripped a like pretty much almost 4K edition of the movie on his own and found those scenes somehow and cut them into the movie himself.
Wow.
So that's the version of the movie I have. It actually isn't like probably because like, he actually when you ordered it and he sent it to you, like, I don't know exactly where these scenes were supposed to be included. He included it based on like what he kind of thought, like, narratively wise, where they would go.
Okay.
And he cut them in seamlessly. And I thought that was kind of
impressive.
Cool.
Yeah.
And honestly, he actually gives you both editions of the movie. If you don't want to watch it with those, you can still watch the ones without.
Jeez.
So I thought that was really cool. And then this is another example of someone that did that because he was just a big fucking fan of the movie. Like he just loved it.
Okay.
And I do kind of want to ask you, like, as you said, you saw that online, that people do love it. Why do you think they do? And do you kind of see? Can you see maybe why they have found a way? I guess I'm included. I don't love it, but I guess I'm including that. Like, I take it for what it is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, can you see where that is coming from?
Well, I almost was going to start my answer, and now I'm going to take it back because I'm looking at the scores, and clearly I'm not the odd one out. But I was going to say maybe I'm the one that's missing something here about what there is to love about it. But clearly, as I'm actually going to see what the IMDb user score is of it. It's, what
it
is
could
that?
exceed that. I think
4.7. Yeah, it's pretty low too.
Pretty low.
But definitely, audiences liked it more than critics for sure, if by a narrow margin. But I'm guessing maybe I went in with not many expectations, but I guess what I was expecting was an objective retelling of this story in the context of the 2000s. I'm thinking that maybe I missed, like, maybe do you think this movie is like intentionally campy, or do you think that it kind of has that, like,
so
people? I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
To the audio commentary for this, not for this watch, but I did this before, and the director, from what I gathered, was not making a campy movie. So
okay,
he really leaned in on like giving Billy and Agnes a backstory, and like thought that'd be an interesting thing for the audience to see. And I also think what he thought, and what I don't necessarily agree with, is I think he felt that like a 2006 audience needed that backstory and motive to understand it and like it. And compared to like in 1974, where that they can get away with like not revealing a lot and telling a lot. I think they kind of felt like today's audience needed like a reason, a motive. They need to understand like why this is happening, and I can see that being a very much a 2006, remake
Okay.
idea. I guess I don't agree with that. What I hated the most about it when I saw it in theaters was like not. I mean, it's once understanding from the beginning. I guess you learn pretty early on that it's not going to be suspenseful. It's not going to be atmospheric. It's just gory, and
Right.
it's just
And
it's a full on slasher movie. It's
that's
not
the
like
shtick. Yeah.
that's
Either get
it.
with it or get
That's
off board.
so, yeah. So what I hated about it when I saw it then was that it was that. I was like, I had in my mind, I guess, when they decided to remake it, I was like, hey, that was a really good idea in 1974. There is room to remake that for today's audience where you could still have that suspense and atmosphere and it would work. And they could actually make that work in like a modern, update
Right.
kind of way. And I remember I was like annoyed that I was like, oh, this is what they decided to do. It was just really the lowest common denominator of what you can do as a horror movie, I guess, is just throw blood at it.
When in doubt, if you don't have anything else, make it gory is how I feel like you
Yeah.
can get through a horror movie production. And that's really how this comes across.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, okay. And even when I saw it then, I couldn't even have fun with the fun kills in it. When I saw it in theaters, I was like, oh, this is not what I wanted it to be. I hate watched it in that theater. And one of those things too, I told you this happens before. I've taken a group of friends to go see a movie and they're like, dude, why'd you take us to see this? I was like, I know.
Yeah.
I was so mad, right? But I mean, I guess once you're far removed from that, and I think this is where we might differ because it kind of has a similar vibe with why there are fans of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, where they know it's a bad slasher movie, but
I
they
get that.
embrace it because of that.
Right.
And there are fans of I Still Know You Did Last Summer. They are aware that it's not like a suspenseful murder mystery thriller like the original is, the first one. So they think it leans in on just being a full-on slasher movie. And I guess what I don't mind that idea because I think that is there's room to enjoy. I enjoy I Still Know What You Did Last Summer because of that. It was all right. All right, if you're gonna dumb it down for me, I guess I'll dumb it down with you and just enjoy it for what it is. But I kind of wonder if that is the intention when they're making it. I don't understand when from listening to that commentary about this Black Christmas movie, I don't think that was the intention they had. And watching something I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, I don't think that was the intention. It's just the audience kind of took that and made that the intention. Oh, this is what they're trying to do. And honestly, if you're the filmmaker at that point and it's not as well received initially, and then the audience is just yeah, I know what they were trying to do. You're all right,
that's something.
That's why
into it at that point.
That's totally what I was gonna do. And maybe that might have been the point, but you just go with it.
I hear what you're saying. I agree. I think that can be the case, especially I think there's an argument to be made that a movie like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is intentionally campy or bad. I just think about, Jack Black with dreads who's high in every scene that to me, there's no way that's written to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
But I also agree with you in the case of this movie where from my limited knowledge of what I was able to research about the remake after watching it is that Glen Morgan, the director, was a genuine huge fan of the original and the original's director.
Loved it.
Wanted to genuinely make a remake that just kind of explored a little bit more of the origins of the killer, and around every corner was met with resistance from the studio and the Weinstein brothers, everyone's favorite producer duo. So I think that this movie kind of ended up becoming what it was as a mixture of his vision being compromised by the Weinsteins who were probably trying to tailor this movie to what 2006 audiences wanted, as they do as producers.
A ton of studio interference on this.
Yes, and then because of that, we get this kind of unintentionally campy, silly, but trying to take itself serious slasher remake. And now I'm kind of not sure what the intention is or how to feel about it, other than I know I didn't like what I watched, but I will give sympathy to Glen Morgan who directed it. I don't think this was his vision of making this movie. This is kind of what he was handed. And I know he actually went to some pretty cool lengths to go behind the studio's back and film scenes anyway that he was told he should not. And I really respect that. And I think because of that, certain characters have different deaths depending on what version of the movie you're watching. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I respect that. That's some pretty, that's some badass filmmaking right there. But I don't blame the director for this one. I did when I was watching it. I thought, who the fuck thought this was a good idea?
I'm glad that you like read up a little bit after, like kind of be like, oh well, not entirely his fault.
No, definitely not.
I also want to ask you too, like, do you like, we love horror movies, but like, I don't really think you're a fan of like, all right, it's just a fun slasher movie, just go with it kind of thing. Like, is there a part of you that you're just like, all right, I'll just run with what this is and like try to enjoy for what this is, or are you just like kind of taken out of it, like, oh, this is just not for me?
For whatever reason, when it comes to the 2000s in general and 2000s horror movies, that's, I feel like, the niche subgenre of movies that I find I have the hardest time buying into, like what they are when they're not something that I find like interesting or entertaining. Like there are tons of like campy or wacky 80s movies that like sound absolutely ridiculous on paper, like a lot of Carpenter's movies that I know what they're trying to be and I have a great time, and that's part of why I love them. But when it comes to like 2000 slashers or just even horrors, not to pinhole myself, that like just try to come across like they're trying to be taken seriously and they're just kind of goofy like this one, I find that's just, I guess, kind of like not my cup of tea when it comes to like horror film. I guess maybe that's, I've always struggled with like enjoying, and I know that we've covered plenty on this show that I've not liked, and I feel like it's because of that. Maybe it's just because a lot of the time it is my first time watching a lot of these ones that we've covered, including Black Christmas remake, but maybe there'll be something for me to appreciate now that I know what I know upon rewatch in the future. Like, I think that's definitely a possibility, but I don't know. I think it is hard for me to buy in. I just want it to be, I think I want it to take itself seriously and to be backed up by a genuinely good plot. And that is usually something that's really missing for me anyway.
Are you surprised that people have found reasons to love it?
I don't want to say I'm surprised.
Are we lying to ourselves?
That could be the case. I think it's more realistic for me to say that I'm just not in on it, that I'm clearly overlooking some things that are to like about this movie. Because again, I just watched it first time.
Not your jam.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe 5 years from now, I will have seen a lot more movies in the vein of this one and find more things to appreciate about it. Yeah. But for instance, like, I think this just popped into my head as an example, like James Wan's *Malignant* from a few years ago. That movie was absolutely ridiculous, bonkers, wacky, but it knew that that was the intention behind it. Like James Wan wanted to make like this homage to like 70s. I don't even know what kind of genre that movie
It knew what it was,
but it knew what it was.
He knew what it was too.
And that is in the DNA of that movie, and that's why I thought *Malignant* was awesome. But it's not like a movie that tried to take itself seriously and ended up kind of just being shitty, and like that's why people like it. Like that's a different beast. Yeah. So I agree. I thought *Malignant* is a great time, but it's because I think that is the intention being made into it. And if this movie if the director had been wanting to make something so over the top and every character gets decapitated and there's blood spurting out of the neck just ridiculously, like that would be more fun to me than like Billy like trying to gross you out by eating a character's eyeballs and it trying to be, you look at that and take it seriously. That just, maybe I'm just too much of a stickler and I like can't have fun. That is definitely probably something that I need to not take seriously.
You as like an old begrudging, like no, like
that's how I feel about myself sometimes.
I'm like, come on, man, like it was fun, like
But as just
here and there, like
for sure, I'm trying to think of some of the one.
I mean, there's a cool one with the icicle, I guess.
The candy cane.
Candy cane was kind of fun.
That was a cool one.
Very, very on the nose, but like, fun. I think Michelle Trachtenberg gets taken out by like an ice skate, like throws it at her.
Oh, was
head.
that her that gets it? That was actually really cool.
Yeah.
And the director's idea to shoot that too. I do appreciate that one.
I do think some of the deaths just kind of come like fast and quick. Where it's like, oh, like the girl's just dying now. Like they like, where you can tell, like, I mean, there might have been some like definitely some editing issues where it's just like, oh, okay. Now they're just like, oh, the movie has to go, and you got to get rid of all of them, and because there's so many people there, like, so it, man, I almost feel guilty liking it. I still do. Like, I mean, I don't like I said, guys, it's not a good movie by any stretch of imagination.
But you can like movies that aren't. There's no shame in that at all. And
but there is an audience for like, so bad that it's good, kind of thing. Like,
absolutely, there is.
And I think it is fascinating though. Like I said, like if the intention wasn't to make it campy, but the audience is like, this is supposed to be camp. And they've decided that it is, and then they've put their own stamp on it and made it something else. I think that's fascinating. Like, and I think that's what kind of happened with this movie, where it's like, they are like, it's just misunderstood, and they've made it grow into like a cult classic. Like, this is a movie that made, I think, not that much money in theaters. I think it was like $16.3 million domestically and $21.5 million worldwide. It ended up selling. It made 30.1 million DVD sales. So that was an indication that it became something else once it was available for home.
Okay.
Right away. And I think it's fascinating. I mean, I think it's interesting that people can put their own stamp on something and like and say this is why you should like it this way.
That a movie can kind of transcend its original,
and that might even make the intention at all. and just like, the audience has made that the intention, and I think that is what happened here, which is like, I was like I said, genuinely surprised when I started seeing stuff pop up a few years after it came out, where they're like, Black Christmas 2006 isn't as bad as you remember, or like it's misunderstood, or like you guys were too hard on it, and not just writing like little tiny blurbs about like why you should like it, but going in deep about like, you would think they were writing about The Godfather the way they were writing about it. But I respect that too. I mean, like if you can find a reason to like love a movie and like, like people, I mean, you can have fun with it. Like how people have fun with it as like an unconventional fun Christmas movie too.
And I like that people can do that for sure.
But on the show, we're in the business of like kind of breaking down movies as are they good or the bad, and like, I think comparing it side by side with the original, like, I mean, like, I guess I can ask you, like, how did you feel about that full-on backstory for Billy and Agnes, and then it going from the flashbacks and like all that stuff? Were you like, did any of that interest you, or did you just like, this is so unnecessary? Like, how did you feel about it?
It would have interested me if it wasn't Black Christmas, because I love the original for the ambiguity and the killer, and like you said, letting your imagination take over, and that there doesn't need to be a clear-cut motive. I'm not opposed to there being an explanation to a killer and why he does what he does, and how that relates to modern day and his motive for killing all these sorority girls. I think there's a great story there. Yeah. But when it's like undoing what's great about a movie that it's adapting, then that's when I have the problem, and I can't separate that. I can't just watch this as a non-remake. But for some reason, oddly enough, it works for me in Rob Zombie's Halloween. Like I don't mind those sequences, but I guess
we feel differently about that too. That's funny.
And we do feel differently about that. However, I love that that there's ambiguity in Michael Myers and Carpenter's, and that I don't think that in Rob Zombie's version of Halloween that makes Carpenter's better, or that it like is filling a gap that Carpenter missed out, like an opportunity that he missed out on by not including Michael Myers' backstory. Not how I feel at all. I just think it's him taking his own spin on it. But for some reason in Black Christmas, it doesn't work for me. Cool though, I guess. Like it's honestly not that unrealistic of a premise. Like we know about
a little gross too. Gets a little gross.
A little gross. The cookie, the flesh cookies was very felt very Weinstein-esque. I was like, this does not seem.
I feel like he was like, let's throw it in there.
Yeah, let's just throw in some weird gore. I think that it was just really. I think there was a really insatiable bloodlust in the 2000s audiences that they felt like this would be necessary to include in there.
Yeah.
But the cannibal traits I thought were very shoehorned. I didn't appreciate those, I guess. I thought that was very out of left field. But what did you think? Was it a cool... It felt like Hills Have Eyes to me. That's why I felt like Billy was plucked out of that movie. Yeah.
a little bit. What I feel, even though I can, like, I don't want to say hate watch it, but I can like, oh, this is fun. I guess I'll throw it on. I don't love the flashbacks. I think the flashbacks kind of like, kind of kill the pacing of what's going on in present day a bit.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it's interesting, but I don't love the execution, I guess.
Execution is a good way to like. I think
and
if
I
the
think you
girls
made a
found
good
this
point
out,
too. If it wasn't Black Christmas, I might be like, oh, that's intriguing, I guess.
yeah.
But since it is associated with that, like it just feels like it's so much, and it's so like I said, like we get very little, if any, motive in the first one and the original, and then now we got this remake that's like
we have an overabundance
overhead.
Yeah.
Now the girl at the sorority house. This was Billy's home. And like that's why, like, there's like all this stuff that's like laid in on thick, and it's just like don't need that.
Yeah. Here's what I'll finish by saying, like, if I think it comes down to what you said, like the execution. I'm not necessarily opposed to there being a backstory for Billy, but maybe if it was just delivered in a different way, if the girls sort of like organically found out this information instead of there just being whole sequences of backstory just fed to the audience, and like we aren't really figuring out anything for ourselves. We're just being told this is what he's doing, what his motives are, why he's in the house. If they maybe had figured this stuff out for themselves in different ways, I think that could have been the way to handle it. And I wouldn't have been so opposed to there being, a backstory, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. We got what we got.
This calls down to script problems. So the script is so bad, guys. There's like one line that always makes me laugh. It always makes my friends laugh. It's Katie Cassidy, and like, God bless her heart, because she had to say this seriously. I think it's when the girls are being mean, and she kind of just like is like, "Come on, guys, it's Christmas." My friends are like, "Well," my friends like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Poor girl." Like, it's just so on the nose.
There were many lines like that.
And when they throw like that character's sister in the movie out of nowhere, my friend was like, "Where the fuck she come from?" Like
out of nowhere.
And like it was just like my friend was like, "Okay, like we just need that extra character. All right, whatever."
I love that she comes.
Like in their original, they have that similar characters, like Dad, right? That's supposed to be like the girl gets killed, like. Yeah, but
Claire's father.
Claire, that was organic, and like he just didn't like pop up out of nowhere. I just like I still laugh at how they reveal her. Like the reveal is so dramatic, and I was like, man, where did she come from? Like, oh, whatever.
I thought it was hilarious how she randomly shows up in their house. And is like going through their stuff, and she's bitchy. It's like, first of all, who even are you? And no one even knows who you are. You say you claim you're Claire's sister, and then all of a sudden you're her half sister. But I thought it was, I think it was neat that they found a different way of having that same character. Instead of it being Claire's father, it's her sister. Like that's, I guess, a small credit to not just senselessly ripping off the same character. I feel like
you're trying real hard to be
I am trying.
Yeah. All right, how did you feel? Well, here's one thing that didn't work in this that I definitely worked in the original. The phone calls are not good.
Ooh, agreed.
They're like really, really bad. I remember when I saw it in theaters, I was like, y'all ain't even trying. That's how I kind of thought. Like, you could tell that they're kind of edited, And it was crazy is that like if you watch like behind the scenes stuff on the original Black Christmas, they talk about how yes, those phone calls are edited and cut, but the way they're delivered, they don't feel that way. They don't feel like just like sounds being like spliced together, like it feels like one seamless like phone call, and like especially as they grow, it feels like one person jumping back and forth from voice to voice to voice. And this it really felt like a cut, and like it felt so cheap. So that's one thing I think I can say comparably to the original that this remake gets big totally wrong.
Missed opportunity. And the over reliance on the "you're my family now" line was just thrown out so many times, it kind of lost any sense of eeriness to it.
And I think there's some line like you're like a Christmas cookie and I want to eat you. Okay, so that's not it's not scary. Now I don't want to repeat what is said in the original phone call. You guys have seen the movie. You guys know. That does not compare to that.
No, that is genuinely disturbing.
And the only reason we're not saying it on the show is like we're not proves that we could say it, but it's one, if you haven't seen the movie, you should discover that on your own.
True.
And like it is also very crude to say it. And like
yes.
but I think that's what like is so great about the impact of that first phone call though, because it like right away you know what movie you're getting.
Yeah.
And you're like, if you were sitting, I remember like sitting back and like, I'm just gonna enjoy this for what it is. And like, honestly, I think the first time I watched it, just sitting up in my bed, like, all right, we got some here. once that started, and I was just genuinely like all in at that point when I first saw the original.
Also, just a really small detail that just didn't need to be included in the original, but I love that it was, is that by the time we are present for the first phone call of the movie, it's a character mentions like just a really, really small piece of dialogue that lets you know that, oh, this has been happening. This isn't the first time this person's called the house. Someone says, I think like, oh, it's the moaner again. Yeah. And that sets up that there's, or establishes that, oh, okay, so somebody has been sort of tormenting these girls and it's kind of escalating now. I thought that was a really great, it didn't have to be that way. We just as easily, the movie could have begun with the first ever phone call to the house and then everything sort of happens in that one night. But I thought it was a great call to sort of establish that.
And that's the cool thing about the movie, about the original, once you're done watching and you've seen it more than once, is like the implication that this could have been going on a lot longer than what we're seeing. Like your mind is like, has this guy maybe been going in and out of the house more than we've seen? Like, once you like your mind goes like, oh shit, this might have not just been like, it wasn't this one night kind of thing. Like this could have been going on much longer. Right. And that is scary in itself. Like definitely the idea of someone being in your home like that, and I mean, I know this is a sorority house. It's like, isn't from your actual home, but like in your space and you don't know it. And like, it's something so violating about it, right? Like, this is like your sanctuary where you should feel safe. And like, that is a scary notion in itself. And like the idea, like I said, I think I agree that them having dialogue where they kind of establish like this has been going on, like we've had these phone calls before. It's an important little thing that they throw in the original that it might not seem all that necessary, but like it really is in the end. Because it's like, oh, this is like, it's a pattern, and this is not like a one-off kind of thing. Makes it a lot, it's like, oh, this has been going on for much longer than this night we've stuck in on.
Exactly. And when the phone rings in the original, which it does many, many times, like there is stakes to that when we hear that phone ring. Like
it's him
or it's the police following up, but sometimes you don't know, or that if it is Billy on the other end, that shit's gonna go down. When the phone rings in the remake, I just thought, okay, this is just annoying. Like you said, they did not have the same impact.
There is something. There's like almost like an anxiety you get when you watch the original, because each phone call, like it gets worse. Like there's just more and more, and like even when there's a dread, you start to feel like Olivia Hussey's dread. Like even when like the cops are kind of calling her, like telling her to like you need to keep them on the phone longer because we can't trace the call. Like all that, you are feeling her kind of like, for her, every time that phone rings, she's like, what am I going to hear now? Like, you are feeling that with her. And that's another thing I just want to say just about, I guess, the lead character, because I guess like Katie Cassidy's Kelly is supposed to be like, Olivia Hussey's character. Not really close though in terms of development. I think the cool thing about Olivia Hussey's character is it may not be necessary to throw in the whole thing where she's pregnant, she wants to have an abortion, but I think it's just it's this real situation where like you feel like you're getting dropped into something in real time where this is like a real life thing that's happening. Like their real lives be going on where it makes it feel more realistic. Like, so it's not like her character has a ton of backstory, but it's enough to make you care about her. And then also to have a character like that in the 70s to be like, I'm pregnant, I don't want to have the baby. There's a lot in that.
She's an awesome character. I actually really love.
I think an underrated final girl too. I mean, in the long, range of final girls, I love what Mark from Release Date Rewind. He posted the scene from on his Instagram story where the cop finally tells her the calls are coming from inside the house, and he described like her on the phone and then looking up the stairs and then looking back and then like all that on her face, like, I want to go up there.
My friends are up there.
But I haven't heard from my friends in this amount of time. They could, like, all that is going through her face and you see it. and like she is very good in that movie. Like I mean, like it's interesting because she doesn't get a lot of time to play like typical horror movie scary beats until the end. But when she gets to, she goes all in. Like I mean, like she could scream like with the best of them, and like, but you do feel her dread of like that you feel that like, oh, I'm in the house alone now. I haven't heard from anyone in like what 10 15 minutes. Like if you're telling me that this guy is in the house and I haven't seen my friends in this amount of time, she knows that already in her head, and I think you can see her playing that. And I love that Mark posted that because that is what is on her face. Like she's very underrated everything in this. I mean, I like the movie itself, but like she genuinely gives a really great performance, and like I don't see anything similar to that in the remake at all.
I agree. And something else that's missing, and just sort of a counter to what you mentioned earlier about the scene, like the drama between her and Peter, her being pregnant and everything. I think what's great about that subplot about her being pregnant and all that is a great setup to the audience that puts in this doubt about Peter and like how he might be the killer. And although there's things that we know that he's not, fantastic setup for like how other people might perceive what's going on. And that all leads up to the end where once Peter's dead, now the police think the threat's gone. There's nothing really going on anymore. Like everyone's safe, everyone that's still left alive. And then of course, Olivia Hussey is left alone in the house when we know that Billy's still on the loose. I thought that was a really great way to set up a killer as an antagonist who's not really an antagonist, where I thought that was sorely missing in the remake as well.
I mean, I guess they maybe try to do that with like Oliver Hudson's character, the dude.
Yeah, kind of. But he's just a dick character.
I mean, everyone, guys, if you didn't notice, that everyone in the movie has the same DNA except for even Katie Cassidy's character.
Right.
They're all mean.
Yeah, poor Eve still gets her head cut off.
Yeah. I will say too, I think one of the interesting things is that even though that there is watching it, there is a stranger that's been like he's going in and out, right? But like the script really does play with their mind, like maybe it could be Peter. Like you kind of start to think maybe it could,
right?
And it kind of goes with that phone call that she gets, because like he has that conversation where they're talking about the abortion, and he says, "You're talking about killing our baby, like you're gonna have a wart removed," and then they get that phone call, and then like he says that basically what Peter said. So like you're thinking like, could it be Peter just fucking with her? Like you it's not, but like your brain's like, what could it be? And I think that's cool that like it toys with you like that, in a really subtle kind of way.
Absolutely.
The remake is smart enough to do that. We'll just go with that and say that. And there aren't really any fun, suspenseful, iconic shots. I mean, there are two scenes in the original that still make my skin crawl, and like I get like,
what are they?
The scene where he's in the room with Barb and he kills her with the
unicorn.
The unicorn, and you only get like kind of the silhouette and then a little shot of his face, and that little shot of his face is so menacing looking. Like this guy looks crazy. And it's the whole like all that's whispering, like the whole Agnes, it's me, Billy. Like he's like you said, like I guess whatever scenario you want to believe, like he's playing out a scenario that, like you said, he could be making up, or he's lived already.
I totally believe he's lived and is reliving or something. But I agree. That is a really powerful
that
scene.
Is great. Also, I love like when people, in the movie juxtapose, like you're hearing "Oh Come On You Faithful" as that scene is cutting from like the carolers to that, and like I was like, that's pretty cool. And then like I'll never not be terrified by the eyeball shot when she finally goes upstairs to check on her friends. Dude, if I could like convey what I felt when I first saw that, I didn't see that coming at all, and I almost felt violated in my room. I was like, "Whoa, that is!" I sucked down in my bed. The first time I saw it, I was like, "That is too much, dude." Yeah, and like I think I mentioned it on the show before. Like I'm the kind of person like I can't leave my I have like a sliding like closet door. I don't like leaving it cracked because I like think of like I figured out that basically,
right?
And and that shot is just so great. And that's the most evil looking eye I've ever seen in my life. And it's great because if you watch like behind the scenes stuff on it, they can't really remember who played Billy in that scene.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Forgot about that.
They all have different answers. Like, oh, I think it was this one. And like, I do kind of love that they don't really know. They can't give proper credit to who has this fucking iconic shot in the movie. And not only is it the shot, it's the whispering behind the door. Like, he like, and like, that's so good, man. I mean, what I will say, even though I can appreciate the remake as trashy, guilty pleasure fun, it not even a question. It doesn't hold a candle to the original at all.
Agreed.
And I'm sorry I made you go through it.
No, it's all in good fun and for the spirit of the episode and for the.
I guess what did you think of like I guess like there's a twist is that there's Agnes and there's Billy doing the murdering. What did you think about that? I can already tell your friends you're like, nope.
Yeah, it didn't do anything for me. I thought it was really weird how Agnes was portrayed to be some sort of like monster where like she gets stabbed in the eye and twists her own eye out with this like the marshmallow poker.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't even really react, and she's got this like superhuman strength where she breaks Lee's neck with her bare hands. And that was an interesting but not good interesting kind of approach. Again, just felt very shallow. Like there was nothing to believe. Like you kind of get why Billy is the way he is, where he's born deformed, no love from his mother and her new husband murder his dad, who was like the only like decent person to him. Lock him in the attic. Like you get why this would be a very disturbed individual who may go on a killing spree one day. But Agnes was like, from what we see, still a really weird home life. Like, but her mother cherished her, wanted her. Yeah. So for her to kind of grow up and just sort of be the same as Billy. Like what's the I don't know why they portrayed her that way. I thought it was kind of strange. Yeah. But I maybe there might not have been any valid reason for me to think this, but I kind of thought Eve was going to be Agnes originally, and that she was like Agnes in disguise. I thought that's what they were trying to set up there.
I did too. A lot of my friends, when they watched it with me, thought that was. And
we don't really get anything
like a lot of my friends like audibly go like, "Oh, I thought they were going somewhere with that."
Yep.
They are kind of annoying. They just don't.
Yep.
I guess like I think okay. I mean, I guess it's cool that Adrian Martin, who plays the house mother, she is in the original movie.
Yes.
That she plays Phil.
It's pretty cool.
Nice little homage.
Yep.
Can you say anything nice about it? Like that you're like, oh, that was cool.
It was cool to have a bridge between the original and this movie by a character, or not so much a character, but by a cast member.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for anything that she did in this movie. I thought I actually laughed at her death. I guess though, thinking back to it, like that would have been an unintentional highlight of the movie, is her sort of stumbling back and then dropping an icicle through her head that is so powerful it bursts out the back of her head. Kind of funny in hindsight.
You're like how? Okay.
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah, I thought it was a missed opportunity to have. Was it Andrea Martin?
Yeah.
To have her maybe work as the exposition for Billy and the murders and everything, and maybe some backstory to get that from her, where she had been there years ago. Maybe I think that really would have worked well for the story, but nothing, unfortunately, that she did in this movie that made me think it was worthwhile bringing her back for that role, other than for it to be a cool homage to the original.
For for fans, like, oh yeah, that girl.
Yeah. She's kind of just a stickler for the Christmas spirit. That's all she really did in this one. I thought, like, and telling them to watch their language. It was such a big contrast to the Mrs. Mack from the original.
Who was like really foul mouth.
Yeah,
and that's what made her, and that must make that character so funny. And
just a weird approach.
That she did love the girls, but she was also like low key annoyed with them sometimes too. Like, I think that was kind of a fun thing about that character.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you tried. Yeah. This is gonna be funny. I really am tempted. I can't wait to know what you scored it. And you can be as mean as you want to be, man.
Yeah.
It's your show.
It's gonna be on Letterboxd by the end of the night too, so you'll see.
Yeah. What can you give it? I mean, like what?
So I guess
your lowest. I wonder if this will be the lowest score you've given something so far.
I genuinely think I would give it a half star. If I could give it a 0, I probably would. Like there was genuinely nothing for me to like in this one, which sucked because like that's never a good way to watch something.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, it was a good exercise in comparing it to the original, and that's obviously one's gonna triumph over the other. Just
right.
In this case, it was in very dramatic fashion. I love the original. I can't wait to watch it probably every Christmas or every couple of Christmases because it's a fantastic horror movie.
Yeah.
But this one, I think I will put much more mileage between rewatches, unfortunately. But I think there's still hope that I might appreciate it as something else in the future. Maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe there's some glaringly obvious, value in this movie that I just wasn't prepared for. And that is completely a possibility. I'm not writing that off.
Yeah.
But definitely not up Jackson's alley as far as horror remakes are concerned. But I've been waiting to see because I know that you have a good time with this movie, and I'm curious. I know you recognize that it's not maybe like an objectively great movie, but there's plenty of that. What does that even mean? I'm just curious to see where you're.
Fun. I'll give it a very guilty pleasure. Emphasis on guilty pleasure. Not that good. Like 2 stars.
Okay, I thought you were gonna go 2.5.
No, I gotta have a little respect for myself. I guess. I mean, it is what it is. I told you when I first saw it, I hated it. Like I had no love for it at all. And then, like I said, like sometimes you can read stuff when people are praising something. You're like, oh, maybe I got it wrong. Like, all right, I'll watch it again with a different eye, I guess. And then even watching it with a different eye, like, all right, it's still not what I want it to be. But once you get over that, you're like, all right, well, it's its own thing.
Right.
And that own thing is it's fun, I guess. I mean, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's short and sweet. It's not long. That's not enough for Jackson by any means.
I like that it wasn't 2 hours.
And honestly, like when I said we were doing this, we got some messages that from people that were like, "Oh, I love the remake." Like some people,
oh boy, sorry to disappoint people.
Like, but they understand too that it's not good too. But you're a good sport. You did it for the show. I appreciate it. I mean,
I'm happy.
I think this might be up there when I still don't summer as like something you would only do for the show and never again.
I think so. That would be interesting to compare when I thought about that one. Those would be pretty close, actually.
You didn't like that movie at all either.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
And my goal most of the time is like to give you movies that we'll both love, but
because you can't always. Yeah,
I think sometimes too. Like, man, I'm like, yo, this guy's time is valuable. Like so like I try to respect your time.
Don't ever think of it that way because I'm happy to. We get good conversation out of it. We get an episode out of everything that we watch. I look at it like that. So yeah, sometimes it can be a chore or it can be a little bit like homework, but very rarely. And like I said, I don't want to go in and discount something just because of what I think I might. I totally could have went into this and thought differently. So you never know, and that's worth watching the movie. So don't ever worry about that. It was a fun exercise to at least compare them, and I got to watch the original a few days before this, so everybody wins.
And that's cool that you like actually revisited a year after you watched it the first time, and like that it might be most likely will be a staple of your Christmas movie watching.
Without a doubt, that
because it is a through and through. We talk about unconventional Christmas movies. It's a good one. I mean, it feels Christmassy too. I mean, actually, the remake does too. I guess it's very much a Christmas movie.
Yeah, there's more. It feels more Christmassy than the original. Yeah. A lot of carols. Actually, Christmas tree. I don't even know if there's a Christmas tree featured in the original one.
Oh yeah, I don't think
I'm not even sure. I can't think of any shots of it, but
the Christmas lights, they be popping in some shots, and they're
remake. They do.
Yeah. So good cinematography. We'll go there.
For sure. I'll leave it at that.
It's pretty. It's pretty. Well, thank you as always, Jackson, for getting through that. But fun. I mean, it's all these episodes are fun too when we don't agree. I mean, actually, I did not agree with you. But it's
you're just able to enjoy more of it, and that's great. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's accepted for what it is, and it took me time to do that, by the way. So
that's right.
It wasn't overnight. But I'm glad we were able to do it. And like I said, it was cool that we got to compare them and a bit and show what worked really well in the original and what didn't. And I think this will be like, depending on when we record closer, this probably will be the last episode we record before Christmas. I mean, I imagine, I don't know what our like schedule is going to be when we record next week, but
Right.
I kind of assume. So I guess
This could be Merry Christmas from me to you
yeah.
and you to me.
So this might be a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, all that good stuff to our listeners. To you as well. I'll actually be saying that to you later
on the day. That's right.
On the day. But yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you guys. I'm glad that we got to like mix it up. But you know, the Merry Bingemas thing is never going to be Tales of Horror. We only do a few episodes. It was fun to like mix in the holiday. I did that with someone, and then we did Better Watch Out, which is another Christmas horror movie, which is really good. If you ever have time to watch that, Better Watch Out is
that's a clever name actually for a Christmas horror movie.
I really would love to know what you think of that, because it's a really clever premise, and it turns itself on its head like midway through, and it just works. I think you would really like it. So like that might be one I'll just like send over to you. Like you like maybe watch if you have time. It's really good.
Okay.
And then we got to throw in more with the Black Christmas remake. So not a lot of Christmas. I mean, I think we tried to do the whole Christmas movie thing on here, and it's hard. It's not enough content or movies to do it.
And neither of us like really love Christmas movies like we do horror movies.
Like, yeah, and there's some that we really do love, but then you cover them like you can't.
And then what do? Cover them every year? Like
yeah, I can't. We can't revisit Home Alone year after year. Like how do we feel about it? Like over the year, like in between them, like I grew up with Home Alone. I'm gonna feel the same way about it. It's not gonna change.
That's right.
so we do what we can. We try like we're not Grinches. We do like the holiday season. And like I said, we'll figure out a different way to like make December interesting for you guys.
Yes.
Next time, like the different like award season stuff going on, we can make like December really work in a very different way. And Jackson's also a good sport. He leans in on the Christmas stuff a little bit for me. I actually have to post our Christmas video that your mom really liked that playlist sent us. I haven't posted it before. I got to reload that just in case.
Awesome.
Try to feel the love and spirit of it. But yeah, thank you guys for this is episode 216, right?
Yes, it is.
Back to the Blockbuster, recording right just before Christmas. Actually, tomorrow I'll be mailing your stuff off or sending it via UPS. I'm gonna do that. So hopefully you enjoy what you get, Jackson.
Thank you very much.
It's a nice little like just thank you for all your time. It's not going to be enough to thank you for your time and stuff for the show, but like
it's a thought that counts. I appreciate
I want to send you like a little something, and hopefully like it.
Of course.
So that'll be good, and looking forward to you getting it, and let me know if you enjoy it. So that'll be
absolutely
great.
I will,
and we'll be able to enjoy our Christmas as well. I personally have 2 weeks off from work. That's gonna be awesome. So even though I'm gonna take 2 weeks off, I am gonna like be thinking about like stuff to do for the podcast, like brainstorming and like how that time I'll like dedicate to that. But this isn't necessarily like our end of the year episode, but like we're coming up on that, and I just personally want to thank everyone for listening this year, and like there was a lot of changes that we wanted to implement like at the start of this year, and we did pretty much most of them, and
that's right,
and stuck to them, and that's going to be our goal heading into 2025. And like we appreciate you guys pivoting along with us while Jackson was busy and giving us encouragement, like, hey, you can really tell that he was really gone, like based on how episodes were released, and got through that hurdle, and like it wasn't even really a hurdle, but it was just like something we had to deal with, and like I'll see how we deal with it, and like we dealt with it pretty well, and I now we're out of it, and I feel really good. I
feel very empowered going into the new year. A lot of new things to come. I think we're in good hands too. It's great to be back in the swing of things by the end of the year, and it's crazy. We only got eight days left of 2024. So you're right, definitely not our last episode of the year. We got a couple probably that we'll get out before that, but I'm interested to see all the. I'm sure that by early 2025 we'll have more of an idea of some things that are to come. And in the meantime, if you guys are still listening at this point and you guys got some feedback, things that you'd like to see going forward in the show, maybe some changes that you guys would like to see, by all means, let us know. We're both pretty open to feedback, and maybe we'll give an opportunity for people to let us know what they think. And if there's some things that we've done, I know that we got to revisit some stuff that my absence did not allow for us to do, like the director showcase. We
Okay,
still have Gaius's pick this time around to do. So we're, for those that we put a halt on that. That is absolutely something we are interested in continuing to do. And among many other ideas, some stuff that we got cooking. So looking forward to that next chat, because we got a lot to hammer out before the new year. But I agree. You know, everything that we talked about doing this year for the show, we did. Hurdles aside, and next year should be very smooth as well. And I'm feeling very hopeful about 2025.
Yeah, I am too. And I think what's pretty nice is that we're not really having like what feels like a big like indie like episode, stuff like that. I think we're just happy that we had a really successful year back to the blockbuster, and like, you know, like a full year, like, you know, a really different full year for you, I guess, like kind of be involved, like,
yeah,
you know, like I think each go around for you has been a little different the longer you've been on it. So like,
true that.
It's all yeah. We're just happy that you guys are still listening and you like the show, and we're grateful for this little engine that keeps on going. So like, we greatly appreciate all your love and support, and that you care about us, and invested in what these two nerds have to say about movies and such. So yeah,
couldn't have said it better myself. We do it for you guys.
Yeah, we are very grateful, and I know I can speak myself and Jackson that that's half the fun, is just realizing that like there are people listening to it, and that feels great. And we had a great year, and we're looking forward to a very exciting 2025. And I hopefully won't make Jackson watch as much bad movies. I'll do as
I'll get you back. How about that?
I know.
I'll make you watch Doom.
That should be a goal for you to be like, I got to make this guy like hate watch something.
Once I find out we're gonna line up that anniversary for 2005's Doom, and maybe then you'll be cursing the day you ever made me watch Black Christmas 2006.
I'll be in your position.
I can't wait for that episode.
Yeah, I mean, and those episodes are fun, man. We can't always agree on everything.
That's right.
But we do it respectfully, so that's awesome. As always, thank you for listening. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. Those are all great, but you can also find us in the Playlist Studio app in the iOS store or the Google Play Store. Support Playlists, because they support us in a big way. They did a great job for us this year. Did a lot of hard work. They continue to do a lot of hard work, and the show can run without them. So thank you guys, and you guys are listening, because I know you edited it. So thank you, thank you Ben, and thank you Andrea, specifically, who Ben's our editor, and she's our go-to about organizing and scheduling everything. So you guys are great. Thank you guys so much. And like I said, thank you, Jackson. I know it's late over there. It's good to have you back.
Happy to be
back.
It's
so good. Yeah, it's so like it really.
It's awesome.
Good. Like I said, like seeing you just in your right space in your room with your headphones and
it's amazing.
A proper mic. I mean, like, you are back on your own stuff, so it's so good to see, man. So always
I appreciate it.
So until next time, guys, take care, and we will see you soon.
Later, guys.